every chance I get to bring the story of Li Ho Fook, like Australian gastronomy outside of Australia, I think is an amazing, I feel really proud.
Hi, today we're going to ask the question, what is the best wine for Chinese food? I'm Trent, so we're here on an unapologetically unprofessional, unfiltered wine journey. We're saying here we drink, we try, we learn, and we connect. Now, we all love Chinese food, but what elevates Li Ho Fook Chinese food to be a two-hatted restaurant in the top 10 good food Chinese restaurants as well? And what role does wine have to play in that story? We're going to delve into the mind of a chef, the why, the thought process, the struggles and the joys as well in terms of what makes it fun for both our faces and also for our stomachs. Today, we're going to delve into Victor Liong, the man behind the Melbourne Institution of Li Ho Fook, and more recently, the Sydney Institution of Li Ho Fook as well. Thank you, Victor, for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, so we're going to kick off first with the icebreaker questions. Get to know you. The first one is there a most memorable wine or most memorable wine moment that you've come across?
Yeah, I was actually reflecting on this recently. I was an apprentice. I was working at like a Japanese French place in Elizabeth Bay. There was a BYO customer. It was probably like a Sunday afternoon, and the sommelier was like, "Quick, drink this. This is an amazing wine." And I remember that was like the one that kind of flicked the switch for me. Yeah. It was a Kistler Chardonnay from Russian River Valley in California, and it was the first time I've ever had wine kind of taste like popcorn and butter. And I was like, what is that, right? And I've basically been chasing that feeling ever since, right? And yeah, I've recently come back from San Francisco, and I just drank kind of California wines while I was there. And yeah, it really scratched the itch a lot, which is awesome. So yeah, that was
fantastic. What's the last glass of wine that you had?
I had a Silver Heights, the Summit. I think it's 100% cab. I just had it open, and I just wanted a glass of wine while I was cooking dinner. And that was not last night before.
As you do.
I think that's one of the best wines you can have like in life is like, you know, that glass of wine when you're cooking dinner.
It is.
You know, be in that gastronomic mood.
Yeah.
So
I make that excuse to start cooking something. Go, maybe just put this bit of wine in while you're cooking, and also drink a bit of wine as well. You need that. Next one, if you could share a bottle with a person past or present, who would it be and what bottle would it be?
Oh, good one. I think I'd love to have a drink with Dave Chappelle.
Oh, yes.
Just for like,
so
you know,
good.
like the depth of like just the way he sees, you know, the world and like how smart he is. I think I'd probably do something Australian, probably like a Saint Henri or something, you know, like a classic, you know, something that represents us really well. So yeah, that would be awesome.
And smoking.
Dave, you listening?
And smoking something else as well, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I don't indulge. I do not indulge. Yeah. So
next one, this will be very interesting. Is there a unique ultimate food and wine pairing that you always go to?
Ultimate food and wine pairing. I really like sauternes with caviar.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Is that like a salty sweet type of thing?
Yeah, I think that really tickles all the kind of, you know, Chinese youth.
Yeah.
You know, like all the, you know, the Hong Kong bakery type vibes where everything's kind of salty sweet or that kind of southern Chinese flavor palette. So I remember being introduced to that, and I thought, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But it's also I don't really, you know, drink that much sweet wine or have that much caviar kicking around. So,
but to do that, I think, did you have like a duck with caviar as well?
I do, yes. I love that idea because, you know, like the caviar coming out of China at the moment is fantastic. And then it was more of a vessel for the caviar. And, you know, I think the thought process was like, you know, I think in fine dining Western cuisine, there's like, you know, blinis or a crumpet or like a cracker or a wafer. And I thought, you know, why not just go like high end and just do, you know, the skin of the Peking duck with caviar and all the other kind of elements around that. So
sounds awesome. Yet to try, but definitely have to try. Next one. If you could bottle a moment of your life like a vintage, what vintage would it be and why?
Yeah, I think, last year was pretty good. Like my son was just born, you know, and I think all the things kind of came quite clear. You know, he was born in October, kind of tail end of the year, and, you know, Sydney just opened. And I think it was a lot of like things
big moments.
Yeah, things I wanted that I didn't realize I wanted, you know, and they all kind of, you know, lined up, and it was pretty good. So I think like a hopeful year, right? You know,
I feel you like the pain, you know, you're having a new baby, plus you open a new restaurant as well at the same time.
Within like 5 weeks of each other. So it was real tough,
Next one. a dish that instantly brings you back to your childhood and why?
Oh, good one. I have to say, like mud crab with ginger spring onion, like that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because it's always like you're not at home when you eat that, right? You're always at a restaurant, right? You're celebrating something, and it's always so tasty, in that, because you don't, we didn't eat mud crab at home. It's always a restaurant, and that kind of ginger shallot combo with like that sweet seafood.
You got to have the noodles underneath as well.
Yeah, and that can come with anything, right?
Yeah.
And that's always like the straight back to like, I don't know, under the age of 12 at a family thing. It's always someone's birthday or it's a celebration. Yeah, nice. I like, and it's always messy.
Yeah.
Because you're a kid, you're not that shy about getting your whatever dirty. You just like where the claw at, where the where's that back leg. And
I used to be a claw person, then I discovered the roe in the head.
That's
my
right.
god!
Yeah, head the crab fat in the head, or the back foot. Is the biggest knuckle, like the biggest knuckle of meat.
Yeah.
So that's
recently we went to China and they do this in-season crab thing where they take all that roe and they mix it up with noodles and go, oh my god, the biggest umami bomb ever.
It's so good. Yeah. Yeah, I think
not good for cholesterol.
Yeah, look, it's in moderation.
Moderation. Okay. Next one. Do you have a guilty food pleasure?
I don't know. I love all kinds of food, right? I think the kind of time of the year I really gorge is probably like summer, and I eat like a mango a day. And I always feel like, this is as good as it gets. Like, I think, and there's a very short window of that, I feel, before it becomes like, peaches and stuff. And I really enjoy that once a day mango season. Yeah. I guess that's the only time I ever feel like I'm really indulging. Like, the rest of it just feels like work.
Yeah, it's not going to Costco and just like getting something like.
Oh, look, I love, Wagyu beef, and I try and grill that whenever I can. But I never feel like, because it's so rich, I don't eat a lot of it. Right? Like I love cooking it.
Yeah.
I love the whole ritual of, starting the charcoal and thinking about what I'm going to, drink with it or whatever. But you end up only eating like 5-6 slices. But like the mango, it's just always like oh my God, this is never ending. And it's such a mess.
I thought it'd be like a durian or something like that. Or mangosteen or something.
No, I think mango, like consistency and like that pleasure to ease ratio is like near perfect.
We talked about the most memorable wine or wine moment. Is there been a most memorable food moment for you?
There's probably been a few.
Yeah.
I think I remember when I trialed it at Mark, right? I was probably just qualifying, and he's famous for this sauterne custard, right? With like burnt caramel. And I remember eating that and going, I don't care what I do. I really need to figure out how this, like how he makes this, because the texture is just like amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably the one that I don't know that sits right at the top. Weirdly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you tried to recreate it yourself?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Is it to that level, or is it always
it's great. It's amazing. Like it's, I think, it's a custard that when you eat, it's so silky that you're like, there's no way this has been in the oven. You know what I mean? Like in your head. And we do a version of it at Li Ho Fook with jasmine tea, so it's a little bit richer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We talked about moments in wine and food. Now, I guess the next question is, what's the biggest lesson learned in both either food or wine journey that you've been on?
There's a few lessons. Like, I think it's with food there's more similarities than there are differences. I think it's like the biggest one that keeps popping up. Right. And then the more you kind of look into the history of stuff, you find that everyone is more connected than they think, like historically, culturally, the taste, ingredients, cooking techniques, all of that. And then with wine, I think it's like the cool thing about wine that I have realized is there's nowhere in the world that makes wine that isn't beautiful. You know what I mean? It's every kind of wine producing region of the world, or anywhere that grows grapes, is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Right. Or it's from someone's head. Right. It's like their memory of like a region that they grew up in, or they want to make a style of wine, in a flavor memory that, resonates with them, or they're just trying to put their mark in something that is, quite natural, which I think is admirable, like in all settings. Right. And it's cool because it's one of those things that you can do your whole life and you pass it down and, it stands for something. And
Awesome. I feel like I got to know you. That's the icebreaker questions, the extended icebreaker questions. Now we're going to go back to like, what is the Victor Liong story? So we were kind of chatting before. I know you've spoken about this a few times, but I'm going to delve into a different areas as well. So you came over when you were 6 from Brunei.
Yep. So we migrated in 91, grew up in the inner west of Sydney. And yeah, did, primary school, high school, university. And then I still wanted to be a chef. So just went down the path of an apprenticeship. I was already working in food when I was in university. So I kind of had a pretty clear goal that I wanted to be a chef. I didn't really start taking it seriously until my kind of second or third year in. When I started working at Hatter restaurants, and I thought, okay, this is really cool.
Just in growing up, what did food look like for you though? Was it McDonald's all the time?
No, my like growing up, food was awesome. Like my really early years before Australia and Southeast Asia, my grandfather and on my mum's side had like a coffee shop. And in Malaysia, you have these coffee shops that are, like the proprietor does the drinks and, like 1 meal period. So it'll be either like, I think he did like basically like the brunch lunch shift. So like, dim sum, baos, all that kind of stuff. But then at dinner time, there was like another group of guys that just did like dinner dishes. Yeah. So they basically took over the, and then there's a couple of spots in the front of the shop where, there's like a roti guy and a noodle guy.
Oh, nice.
And they changed. So growing up there was always something in different meal periods. And I was the boss's grandson. I was just walking around eating and drinking whatever I wanted, right? And like, they just go, whatever, just let him do it.
Awesome.
And that was like my holidays all the way up to like maybe my 9th.
Yeah. I thought you said coffee shop was like a kopitiam type of thing.
Correct. Yeah, in like old Chinatown in Kuala Lumpur. So awesome.
Gaya bread and...
Yeah, all of that. That's like breakfast every day.
Oh, so good. Okay, so you grew up with those memories of the coffee shop, and then you went to high school. You worked in Delhi as well. Yep. Started into food, but then you studied business management.
Yes. Well, I think we all can relate to. I'm the oldest son.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a genius, but I wasn't like failing. So I think my dad was like, "Hey, don't waste this opportunity.
Yep.
That if you could go to university, go." And I just went. Like I didn't enjoy that kind of classroom vibe. I really looking back. University and tertiary education is really like it teaches you a lot of things that I think are really relevant as you get older, being committed to complete something like a degree. When you write papers, you have to do a lot of research and come up with a balanced argument, which I think is like weirdly something no one does anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, I saw this source, quote it. It's like, how about like filter it a little bit?
Reddit, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Right. And I think that's the kind of stuff that tertiary education kind of teaches you, working to deadlines, working in teams, presenting yourself, a random group of people. And it's cool that you could do it under the guise of being a student. You know what I mean? Like, so there was like a big kind of safety blanket of like, oh, don't know what I'm doing yet. I'm still a student, right? Which I kind of miss.
You got your own family here, your own teamwork, and it still applies into the restaurant context. But the question is that it's the easy decision for someone doing a uni degree is then going to that same field, going to corporate life as well. But you chose not to do that.
Yeah, I love working as a chef, right? Like I knew that I wanted to do something with my hands. I love working for weird reasons. Like I like working at nights, I like working in small teams. I like working with passionate people, and I like getting good at something through repetition. And I felt that I couldn't ever achieve that. Yeah. Doing anything kind of corporate.
So before you mentioned you're eating at the kopitiam and the coffee shop, did you start actually making your own food as a kid as well?
Yeah, a little bit. Like my mum was a really good cook, and she really is still a great cook. And growing up, it's funny because as migrants, you're like you don't realize your parents are going through, they're like a homesickness or a longing for, something that's familiar. And, like coming to Australia in that kind of early 90s, mid 90s, it was like, I remember we used to go on these escapades to find like fresh pandan leaf. And I never understood that. Right. But I get it now. Right. Because they're just yearning.
Feeling of home.
Yearning for an ingredient that was, unlocks a lot of flavor memories for them. And we just do stuff like that, like, oh, we've got to find kaffir lime leaf or, like a pandan leaf or, like a mangosteen or something. And you go to this random nursery in the middle of nowhere.
And you didn't find that boring. You love that
super
adventure.
boring. I hated it. Yeah. But then like now I get it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like if I moved to, a foreign country now and there was no like ginger,
Yeah.
I would be searching for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so, and like, obviously, and then mum, as these ingredients became a little bit more accessible, the mum still had that kind of pining for the flavors at home. So she'd cook a big range. And like the good thing about Malaysian cuisine is it's just a melting pot of like Indian, Chinese, Malay, and all the kind of little genres in between. And also like with that being in a migrant community, learning about like Lebanese cuisine, Korean cuisine, Sri Lankan cuisine, like, and just expanding that.
But were you watching all those cooking shows? Like I see my son now, 11 years old, and he's there going, I want to cook something, I want to bake something. Was that you as a kid?
A little bit. Like I think because back then you got to think there's no YouTube, right? Like, and there's only that many cooking shows. Like Huey was on, Ready Steady Cook was on, and
What's Cooking as well.
That's really it, right? Jeff Jantz maybe in the morning. Like you can name like the three guys that are in there, right? But now like the content's everywhere that it feels like, oh, this wasn't like I remember when YouTube was early days YouTube, and I was learning, like I was at the start of my cooking career. I would just Google Michelin star every week just to see what content came out, right? You know what I mean? And just to like glean that because there wasn't camera phones or Instagram, like we used to like go on eColor and look at, like food forums and go, oh my God, have you seen how like Noma plated up that thing? And
food
then
porn.
and they just share with everyone. Everyone's like, oh my God. And it was just all waiting for, this master chef to come out with a cookbook. And then, it'd be like $80, but you still couldn't afford it. You know what I mean? Like, and just like in Kinokuniya, just like, oh my God, oh my God. You know what I mean?
Love it. So you were in uni doing a degree. You also at 22, you're doing work as a kitchen hand as well. But doing kitchen hand and kitchen work, there's a long hours. I imagine that at those times and those days as well is quite a ferocious environment to be in as well.
No, I loved it. Like you got to think about it, right? Like when you're a uni student, you do like 8 hours of uni, really. You know what I mean? Like, like really, you do 8 hours uni, right? If you're
give or take,
if you're good at like, if you really want to like delve in and become like, committed to university studying, you might do 60. But then like, I was working at the casino, and that place is a 24-hour operation, so you could work whatever. Like they just send you the roster hours, and you go, oh, I can do this bit, right? And I learned everything. It was cool. Like, obviously you start off with like, hey, wash stuff up. And then, you start cutting stuff, and then, you practice cutting stuff, and you want to get good at it. And, you just take on, it's like anything. You just take on, like, if I was really keen to like just be in the kitchen and like, get more skills and work with more exposure. And I think in any environment, if you do that, they're just going to keep throwing stuff at you, right? And at the start, it's really stressful, and then after a while, you're just like, okay, cool, that's just one of the 30 things I got to do today.
I don't know whether it's a sink or swim. Like we've seen The Bear, the series. We've seen like Chef, the movie as well. We've seen elements of that with like Bourdain kind of working in kitchens as well, like that type of
100%. That's was around. It's less so these days, right? I think it's a mix of everything. It's like, it's nice that, kitchens are, a little bit more kind of balanced, and the profession has got a little bit more longevity. But also back then there wasn't that many restaurants. You know what I mean? Like if you wanted to work at like a 2 or 3 hour restaurant, there was only like like a handful. So you kind of just go, oh well, I really want to be here. So you kind of cop it a little bit, but it's it's all changed, which is good.
Okay. So at that time, who were your greatest influences on your food journey then?
Look, I think I remember reading like a Joel Robuchon cookbook, and this is something that I joke with Dan Hong about because we're both like really team Robuchon chefs. And then at the time there was a chef called Haru Inukai. I think he's got Gaku Robata, but back then he was the chef at Galileo, and he was a sous chef for Robuchon in Tokyo, right? And then I was like, okay, cool, this is like my one little step towards the greatness, right? And I worked for Haru for a few years. I learned a lot, and true to form, it was very kind of classical, regimented. Yeah, it was awesome. Learned a lot. I loved it. And then I worked for Mark Best, and Mark was quite modernist, really kind of fine European cuisine, really small, really passionate. He's he's inspired by like Pierre Garnier and, but then a lot of the core recipes are very kind of Robuchon or Ducasse, when Mark worked for Alain Passard, and he really kind of, took those elements and drove that in his vision of what that restaurant was. And I loved working, and Mark has taught me heaps and he's still a mentor today. I love him. And, the way he thinks about food and is rubbed off on me a lot. Right. And also like Li Ho Fook's a small restaurant in Melbourne. He had a small restaurant in Sydney, and that style of working and that style of kind of kitchen arrangement is still something we kind of still work towards today, right?
You've eaten at a few Robuchon restaurants before?
I have not, actually. I've only eaten at one.
Yeah.
I loved it, though. They sit there and you go, whatever. I'm not going to be that guy that sits there and go, I'll never meet your heroes, right? Like, I just sat there and go, okay, this L'Atelier is awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like,
the mashed potato,
yes,
the best.
But, it's like, it's funny when you go through and eat them and you go, actually, this is very similar to like how Haru used to cook it. Or there's elements of this where, Mark had touches of this, and you can see where a lot of the chefs kind of get these inspirations from, right? Which is awesome.
And a bit of that's also into Li Ho Fook as well, probably.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd like to think so. Like I'm 2 Kevin Bacons away from Robuchon, and I could get a little bit. I don't know. Yeah.
Awesome. So now we're going to delve into Li Ho Fook, the restaurant. It started in 2013.
Yes.
Firstly, the name Li Ho Fook. Why the name Li Ho Fook?
Okay, funny story. So when I was 27 at the time, and someone gave me the opportunity to open my own restaurant, and I really didn't care what it was called. Like, and one of my business partners, he was really into music, and all his businesses have like a musical kind of affiliation. And so Li Ho Fook comes from a lyric in a song called Werewolves of London by Warren Zevon. And I was like, sure, dude, like whatever. I'll cook in a restaurant called Long Duck Dong. I don't care. I just was so ready to like I really wanted to open a restaurant. And yeah, so that's where it's from. It's from a lyric of a Warren Zevon song.
Wow.
And it means good fortune for your mouth.
Yeah. Because again, there's also whole Li Fook as well, right?
Yeah. That was opened after us. So I can say
copyright? No,
it's we're all friends. I've cooked there a few times, and I really do love what they do. So yeah.
So 2013, you're starting a restaurant. Probably before then as well, you had this concept, this idea of what it was going to be like, or did you have a clear view of what that?
No,
like?
I don't think so. I think looking back, like I just had this like big ball of creative angst that I felt that I needed to kind of project out, right? And the vessel was through Li Ho Fook.
Yeah.
And looking back, I think I was very lucky to have the opportunity, but also be able to test so much of like my ideas out so quickly, and also for the restaurant to kind of grow with me in terms of the stuff I liked, and then the community that kind of comes along with it. Yeah, because the early days I had no idea. I just was like, hey, look, I think it'd be cool to cook this. Let's do it, right? And I was lucky that the Melbourne audience is very receptive.
Yeah,
like back then I wasn't even a wine drinker. I remember like when I left Sydney, I used to just drink Negronis.
Yeah.
And like wine if it was going. I never didn't know anything about white wine.
Shots.
Like, not so much shots. It was just Negronis, beers, and whatever
whiskey and Coke.
Yeah, whatever wine's going, and it's usually red wine, right?
Yeah.
So it was nice that like through the restaurant journey of trying to build something that was a little bit more complete for the dining experience and for what the restaurant stood for. Like I had to learn all these things, and it's obviously fun learning about wine because you get to drink a lot.
What was that like though in the early days? Did you just have a big whiteboard of, hang on, I want to do this type of dish, or this is the style, or I'm definitely going to do a Peking duck? And
yeah, like correct. So it's almost like I would think about like a flavor memory that I'd like, and try and translate that with, a produce that's like a product that was on hand, right? And then it'd just be another idea and another idea. And then, every week it'd be like, okay, let's run this special. I love that. Or the customer likes that. Let's move that into the menu. Or like, I really want to muck around with this technique. It doesn't work. Or I'm not sure. And then you just like, and just keep trying. And I think it's that constant output of creativity that like you just sometimes solve your own problems. So you'd unlock something that was a problem, like a month ago, or you just stumble onto something like pretty quickly and go, okay, actually this is pushing us in a direction that is, where I want to go,
Yeah.
So that was
in your website says it's modern Chinese. What is modern Chinese to you?
Yeah, it's funny that, right? I think back then, like in Melbourne, there was like Thowdrum and Little Bourke Street. There was no one in between,
Yeah.
right? And then like 2013, we arrived and I said, hey, look, I want to sit somewhere in the middle, right? I don't want to be like $2 dumplings and I don't want to be, you know, $400 a head for dinner,
Yeah.
right? And then whatever that version was,
Yeah.
you know, was actually kind of what Li Ho Fook was, right?
Yeah.
And also at the time, it was very hard to see what China was doing. It's still kind of hard to see what China's doing, you know, with the, you know, I associate that with like the world is in the sea and you can see, you know, everything that's going on everywhere, but China's a lake.
Yeah.
And then from the sea, you can't see into the lake,
Yeah.
but once in the lake, you can see everything,
Yeah.
right? And it was still on the cusp of like not being known. We don't know what's going on over there. And so I think I still had space to play around with what my idea of what modern Chinese cuisine was, right? Because I think in everyone's head, it was like, you know, it's got to be like pagodas everywhere and, you know, it's sweet and sour pork and, or you know what I mean? Like, and I was just trying to figure out, I was like, look, restaurants in China don't look like, you know, pagodas, you know, but then what they're cooking, I don't know what that is yet either, right? Because they don't know what that is, right? Like, are they reinterpreting something that's familiar to them? Are they cooking hyper-regional? You know, is it like just about simplicity? We didn't know, right? And I think through that journey, it's kind of like how I see where Li Ho Fook is. It's, you know, I find inspiration from travels to China and, you know, travels around Asia. And then I look at something and go, okay, hey, how do I filter that to the Australian way of dining or using Australian produce or for it to be relevant in the hospitality product that is Li Ho Fook, right?
Yeah. But still staying traditional to roots. You're not trying to...
Yeah, like I think it's funny because I had this conversation in San Francisco. It's like every Chinese person in the West is from southern China, right? You know what I mean? Until maybe 20 years ago. And then now it's kind of central and northern Chinese, right? So everyone is in this like custodial cooking, you know, journey, right? Where it's like, oh, it's a flavor memory of something from my childhood. It's a flavor memory from something from my heritage, which is almost always southern China, right? Or it's the Chinese insert diaspora experience and I'm kind of formulating that to, you know, to spit out, right? And it's fascinating. If you go to China, there's, you know, like super regional cuisine that's cooking really fine food with amazing produce, but we've never heard of it here. Like, you know, there's Anhui cuisine. We don't know what that is, right? You know what I mean? And like, will that translate to, you know, an Australian eating style? I don't know yet.
An Australian palate,
yeah, correct, right? Like, just because it's authentic doesn't mean it's going to be amazing, right? And just because it works over there doesn't mean it works over here.
But you're not trying to reinvent something.
No, absolutely not. I think it's more like, hey, I understand there's a certain style of eating that we're used to here, you know, the customer expectation of what value is this. And also for me, it's like, look, I want to insert some kind of creativity into this, but how do we repackage it so it sits under the umbrella of Li Ho Fook, right? So it's quite complex, but it's actually fun.
Yeah, because we went to Hong Kong, went to our Bow Innovation, you know, Alan. It's like, that's a completely reinvention of our traditional flavors, but that's not what you were going to go for.
No, I think less so. It's more because like all the real fine and high quality dining experiences I've had in China has been like really quite like focused and like cooked with great craft, but not like unnecessary technique, you know, which, and I think it's almost like, what's next, right? Or how do I get some of that here, right? So that like everyone gets to experience that.
Yeah. So we talked about the origins in Melbourne. Recently you opened up in Sydney as well, which is very exciting. Tell me about that. And also, how is Melbourne different to Sydney as well as a restaurant?
Yeah, hilariously. Okay, so it's so funny because it was Boxing Day, not last year, the year before. And they were like, hey, look, our licensing partner here is Trippers White, and you know they were just taking over this property, which is the Porterhouse Hotel, and they were like, "Hey, look, what's your thought process behind doing a Victor Liong restaurant in Sydney?" And I was like, "Look, guys, I got enough on. I really don't need another, you know." And then we, you know, when I walked through here, it was Boxing Day, day after Boxing Day, so 27th, and I was like, oh, maybe, because the walls look like it feels like Melbourne, you know what I mean? And I was here with my wife, and she was like, she could just tell. She's like, you're going to open a restaurant here, aren't you? I was like, yeah, first floor, in the city, old warehouse, heritage listed, kind of looks like Melbourne, right? And she's like, oh no, here we go, right? So, and I said, look, I really didn't want to do a new concept, and so we talked about doing a Li Ho Fook and what that looked like, and here we are. So we're very proud of it. It's only about 6 months old.
Yeah.
The team's fantastic. And we're still learning on what the space can do and, what the customer wants. So.
We spoke before about it's very much the menu is very similar to the Melbourne menu as well. But do you think the Sydney palate and expectations is different to the Melbourne palate and expectations?
Look, when we opened, there was a brief that was like, hey, could we explore more kind of cooking over charcoal or live fire? And I was like, I'm really not like hugely excited about that in like a professional setting. But I said, sure, we'll kind of explore that because I love grilling in a Chinese setting. I love grilling at home. And I think when we first opened, it was more like, okay, how do we do a Li Ho Fook that still looks and feels like, the restaurant everyone knows in Melbourne, but put a little bit of a Sydney spin on it. And I think we're still exploring, like how do we, expand on that, right? The restaurant, the menu is about 80% the same as Melbourne, which is like, I think that's understandable if you're bringing something that's known from Melbourne here. Yeah. Like you kind of want to eat the classics, right? So, all the things that we're known for are available in this menu. And then there's a few things that we want to do that is a little bit more kind of just kind of Sydney, right? And how are the cities different? Look, they're both on a different kind of frequency. I think, Sydney's like the weather's warmer, so people are out more. I feel that the energy is more outdoors in Sydney, or it attracts you to do more stuff out and about. And then Melbourne's, I think, the opposite. The weather is a little bit colder, it's a little bit more challenging. So all the creative and gathering spaces are more indoors, right? And they're smaller, they're more, niche. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to decipher.
I feel that like when you travel around the world, the environment kind of defines the kind of cuisine, the restaurants around that area.
100%. And I think, and the eating styles, like if it's warmer, you're not going to eat richer. Yeah. You know what I mean? If it's colder, you want to, settle in and, they don't really want to leave. Yeah. And you can see that, like you go to like Barcelona, everyone's out and about and eating a little bit everywhere, like you go to San Francisco, the produce is amazing and they're doing the same, and I think, but then you go to colder places, like you go to Paris or you go to like a Melbourne, it's more, hey, let's just stay here, man. Or like we'll go around the corner max, like.
Yeah, because we have the weather here. Melbourne, not so much. Yeah. So, but we have the great seafood, the awesome fish market as well.
Yeah, right? Correct. But I think, that's Australia. That's an Australian thing. You know what I mean? Like the access to amazing seafood that is like very uniquely high quality that I think we take a little bit for granted. Yeah. And I'm guilty of that too, right? But I think like Australia's, we're blessed with, we produce amazing wines, we have amazing, kind of produce. The quality of everyone's kind of work in the hospitality field is really world class. You're doing
an awesome job. But I also want to touch on that shift between a chef to an owner, and what was the biggest shift and learning experience from that?
Well, I think, I was always in love with the idea of owning my own business because I wanted to know how everything worked, right? I'm very curious. I like the idea of processes and really understanding like all the little details.
Was that your business management degree?
No, not so much. I think it was just like in my nature, right? And like moving away from being an employee to, being an employer it's challenging, like there's a lot to learn. I've just been lucky that, the support that I've had around me has been fantastic. And I haven't made too many catastrophic mistakes.
Have you had those days where you go, oh shit, why did I do this?
Like it's constant. Like what it is, it's like, what's that saying? It's like the load doesn't get heavier, the back gets stronger, right? You know what I mean? I remember early days, it was like, couldn't sleep, you know what I mean? Like just because it's like like it's stress from work plus from the business. And now like you do that a few times and you kind of know, okay, hey, look, this is going to come up and you're going to have to react a certain way, or you're going to react a certain way because of, and you just trust the team a bit more, like awesome. I think I'm a little bit older. I communicate a lot of my creativity out to the guys to kind of execute. And at the end, like I try not to stand in the way of the team doing work, right? Like I think when you're younger and you feel all that pressure from, hey man, it's my name on the door, like are you gonna answer that email if it comes in and it's bad? And like now it's more like, hey, look, we know what we are, and more importantly, we know what we're not.
Yeah.
Right. And that makes it even more solid in like, hey, look, we can't do this for you, and that's okay. Go somewhere else. Right. And like where like I'm a little bit more confident in, in being able to build what that is. And for the people that work, in the teams that I have, they're confident that they're like, hey, look, this is what Victor wants.
Yeah.
This is what Li Ho Fook is. And I won't get in the way of them, even if they make a poor decision, because it's like, hey, look, I wouldn't have done it in the setting, but at the time I wasn't there, or that we don't know, and so
some of the harshest critics is our parents.
Oh yeah.
How are your parents? And you said,
it's true. That it really is. Like, I think my as my parents get older, they get a little bit softer. I remember early days, I was like, oh. Yeah, it was rough. Yeah, I think, and also like because of that, you put a lot of pressure on yourself.
I got to make this work. Got to prove them wrong.
Yeah, correct. Or like, oh, I can do better. Like, and it's like it's annoying because sometimes I think it takes away from all the things that you have achieved, and it's hard to absorb. And go, hey, look, that's people can work a whole lifetime and not, achieve, a modicum of what you've just experienced this year. Like, can't you just celebrate that? And I have trouble, like going, because I'm always like, yep, thank you, next. It's the higher you go, the farther it falls, all of that, right? And that's that migrant struggle and that indoctrination of like, don't get too big for your boots. There's always someone bigger that, and so,
How are all the your parents, your aunties and uncles as well around doing modern Chinese restaurant? I could imagine there's a lot of...
look, I think it's... At the start, it was like, what does this kid know, right? Which is fine. But I think now it's more like, hey, this is what Victor does, and it's about trying to, like, for me, it's about building connections on, like, if I can tell a story that I think is important, or if I can bring some inspiration forward that, that can open up someone's mind and like a flavor, a taste, a combination, or even if there's like someone who's younger that goes, I could be that guy. They're all awesome, and I think it's important, and that's one of the reasons why I just keep, I want to keep kind of working at it.
And I think putting a restaurant out there is also putting yourself out there as well. And you do get feedback. One of the feedbacks from your website is from Jancis Robinson.
Oh yeah,
a very different type of Chinese meal. Or this was very varied in both texture and flavor, and we ate very, very well.
That was awesome, actually. It was hilarious. I didn't actually know how important Jancis was. And I remember it was the hottest day of the year. And I was like, no, I'm not wearing pants, I'm wearing shorts.
Yeah.
Right? There's Max Allen, Nicholas Lander, and Jancis, and she was upstairs, and like it was so hot. And I went up and said hi.
Yeah.
And she's like such an Australian move wearing shorts. But she was really lovely. Yeah. It was really cool actually, because Max told me after that she really wanted to try two restaurants. So she went to Flower Drum that trip and Li Ho Fook. So yeah.
So you get the good feedback, but you also get some harsh feedback as well. How do you take on all that feedback?
Oh, dude, you know what? Like it wrecks my vibe for about an hour, and then I just go, oh, whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's I'm serving everybody. When I'm not an exclusive club, and everyone's entitled to their feedback now because of the forums and stuff online. And sure, like we can learn from a lot of them; they're valid. But then a lot of it's like, the opera's not for everyone. Like. Go somewhere else. Like this.
Is that through maturity, like to your point before, you're back getting stronger? Like the early days must have been difficult.
I don't know, man. Like I still think like my wife could see me on the couch, scroll through something, and I'm just like livid for like an hour, and I'm sending everyone like, action immediately emails. And she's like, oh God. So yeah, I'm still like, it's because it's still, it's very personal.
Yeah.
It feels like I feel so responsible for everyone's kind of work through my reputation that I take it on, right? And it sucks, dude. Like who wants to say who wants to hear that, like,
it is.
Hey man, like how about I go to your job and tell you actually, the last time you shared that, one out of 5. And then every time they Google you get like that 1 out of 5.
I know. But I think you mentioned other podcasts as well. There's always that element of imposter syndrome as well, like, and also challenge yourself, asking, how do I do better? Am I worthwhile? What are the questions that you ask yourself to keep on improving as well?
Look, I think I used to have that when I was younger. I broke out of it, I think, kind of late 30s, when it was like you realize that you're creating something that only you can, right? And, and like a big part of it is being part of a community, and I think I've always looked at it as like, hey, we're part of not only just a local community, but a global community. And I've been very lucky to be able to cook and know like chefs from around the world and share stories like this, and everyone's the same. And until you realize, and you go, like, Brandon from Mr. Juice, I was like, bro, you're the only person here that's doing this. Like, we look up to you, and it's funny because he celebrated his 10-year anniversary this year, and he gave a really heartfelt speech of like, being able to cook with everyone, and he's a little bit older than me, and then for him to say that he looked up to me, and I was like, no, bro, it's the other way around, right? And it's cool because then because we all go through these moments where it's tough, and because it's a business, you're trying to balance a bunch of other stuff as well. But to know that someone else from the other side of the world is, in your corner, which is really nice, right? So yeah, I get a little bit less that, and it's more just like I like working on this one thing again and again, like polishing this one gem, right? And I do that with the recipes, with the teams, and yeah, I think as I get older, I'm more about like the consistency of high quality than like just doing it in spikes, right? That's why you see like we don't really change the menu much, right? Because it's like unless you come every day, like, but also like you'd be upset if McDonald's changed like the recipe for the chicken nuggets. You know what I mean? Like, hey man, I'm here for this. Like, what happened? You know what I mean? So
but there might be the new stuff on the menu though.
Yeah, which is fine, right? But then it's like
the Korean spicy chicken.
Yeah. I'm all about that. You just add that to all the stuff you always have, right? So,
and that's been the evolution of Li Ho Fook as well in terms of your philosophy around it.
Yeah,
so
a
more
little
refinement.
bit. Yeah, it's definitely that. Like, we'd rather work on something that we know works well and try and work on the details or improve it like incrementally every time you make it. And it could just be not noticeable, the first couple times, but then after 10 years, they're like, hey, that was better than I remembered, right? And I think that's a nice touch.
We see the glorious ducks behind you. Do you think you perfected the Peking duck?
I don't. Yeah, look, the duck is a funny one, right? Like, it took me about 8 years to get it on the menu, right? And then it was still like I'm still trying to figure out, like, is this the best way? Right? Because like I get flamed for like, oh, the skin isn't right. Like, it serves too much meat. It's not. I'm like, yeah, but what I'm trying to do is like serve what I think is a great version of Peking duck in this restaurant where you drink it with like Pinot or Grenache, bro. Like, it's not about like this is the full stop of your meal or like only come for this thing. Like, it's one of many things to enjoy about the experience.
We talk about a lot of the successes in terms of the dishes. Has there been any failures in terms of experimentation that's kind of gone wrong that you could share?
Yeah, look, there's plenty. And the thing is, I don't remember them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't go, oh my God, like I wish I had a pork trotter dish that worked better. Like, I think, obviously I think there's a few things that are like, we're too soon on.
Yeah.
Or like the current clientele aren't probably that receptive to. But yeah, I think that they're still in the back of my mind. Like my notes app is full of like, this question mark that like with this like like this product with this flavor profile question mark or this with that, like, and it's always like it's and I make the decision of like, is this too soon, too conceptual, too strange,
which is interesting point. I think Australian palate has been a bit more adventurous of late as well, where they love to travel as well, right?
Yes. Yeah, I agree, but I think it's also like just because I like something doesn't mean the customer will like something, right? Like, and I think like I'm here to serve, my guests, and like once in a while it can be cool to be like, hey, I'm really into this, try that. But it's not so much like, hey, I've taken off a favorite and put this on. Like, like, you know what I mean? I think like we're less like, I'm in that stage of like, where the restaurant is, that I'm a little bit less like that, right?
You haven't tried to put on the pig's blood jelly or something like that?
Yeah, dude, I love like offal. I love like I'm still trying to figure out like, how do I sneak it in, or is it like do we do it enough and then it becomes like we create a market? You know what I mean? Like, and then, well, once again, it's also translating that skill to the team, right? Like, just because I like it or my head chef can do it, it doesn't mean, the sous chef or the chef de
Yeah.
partie that,
Yeah.
that cooks the food when I'm here or not here, they can understand the details of it, right?
We talked about the growth and evolution of Li Ho Fook in the restaurant. I guess more broadly speaking, hospitality in general, have you seen that also evolve as well?
Yeah, look, I think it's challenging times. It's we're in right now. A tumultuous kind of global economic situation, and Australia being so far away, it's we're suffering from the effects of some of it, right? Some of it is quite immediate. Some of it's got a longer tail. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like there's always going to be a challenge, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like you just think your way out of it,
Yeah.
as opposed to like just accept it too much, right?
Do you think there's less young chefs coming into the industry?
I don't know. I think like yes and no, but we've always kind of had that, like a staffing shortage of some kind within the industry, or high turnover, right? Like we try and fix that through better culture, better management, better work-life balance. But it's still it's still it's a hard job, right? It's a challenging industry, and and the other thing is people can see success from working with food and not in food, right? Like, through social media, through other media outlets, YouTube, whatever. So there's, like those guys are cool for camera. Food looks really great. Like and subscribe, right?
Yeah.
But that's not in the real world, right? Like I operate in the real world. I like, tangible, repetitive, soul-crushing work.
And the world does throw those curveballs at you, and we kind of spoke about it before, that COVID feels like yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, what was like some of the biggest reflections from COVID?
Look, it was a really tough time, but I learned a lot, right? Like I learned how to build an e-commerce page. I learned how to, update my own website. I learned, EDM, I learned customer segmentation. I learned, like all these things that I would probably have delegated or not had an understanding of if I did or I wasn't forced to.
Yeah. And this is all pre-ChatGPT as well.
Yeah, dude, 100%. Like, which makes it, I think, more valuable because, like, and we're all from that same school. Like, how do I do this? I don't know. YouTube. Right. And then you watch like 100 hours of YouTube for like 5 hours of practice, right? But that's, and that's perpetuates like the resources being there, right? So, yeah.
Okay. We're going to now finally get to the wine. What wine did you bring today?
So I bought a 2022 Gronju. It's a Chardonnay. I love this wine because it's part of the Li Ho Fook community. I remember, so Peter Bartholomew, who's the vigneron at Gronju, he's one of my business partners. He bought this property, I think, I want to say back in 2016. And then he just restored it with just his kind of vision of what, he wanted to do out there. It's a beautiful little property, kind of looking at the gorge. It's got a clos, which is a stone wall that he's restored. He planted single stakes, like loved it. When that, he's obsessed. He's a huge Rhone head. He loves like Jean-Louis Chave, and he'd look at Chave and go, okay, single stakes, and he'd do that. And then, so it's a small producer. He's a small producer, doesn't make much. Mark Walpole's his other wine guy and Mark's a champion.
The legend.
Yeah. And it's all, I like it because it's one of those things where, like, through the journey of me having the restaurant, I have had be part of this community and see it go from, like bought some villas on an estate and then restored the walls and grow grapes. And then now it's, it's the young player as an extension of an old story, because it was previously a vineyard. And now he's kind of, brought that back. And I think it's pretty cool.
So it's a test. So the Chardonnay here, what dish would you pair this with from the Li Ho Fook menu?
I love Chardonnay with just ginger shallot as a flavor profile, right? Like, because it's always usually with like a richer seafood, if not like the sweetness of crab or lobster or scallop, right? So we do a steamed toothfish with silken tofu, ginger spring onion. I love that textural combination because when you apply heat to tofu, it softens, and then you apply heat to toothfish, it firms up. So you get that kind of contrast of firmness and softness. Toothfish is really rich, and tofu is really lean. Weirdly, right? Like it's just all soy protein, right? So that's, and then ginger spring onion is just a very Cantonese flavor profile. Delicious.
Beautiful. What's been your wine journey though? How has that evolved? You said early on you weren't really drinking that
funny.
much.
It's, like I love wine because it is a journey. You know what I mean? I think what you feel like, there's a, what, like I think when you're at the start, the flavors that kind of really tick the boxes for you as you get older, I think you change, right? Like I remember when I first started drinking white wines, I used to love Rieslings.
Yeah.
Just because I think it was very versatile. You know what I mean? Like you can't really go wrong drinking a Riesling because A, there's like a big range of Rieslings, and B, there's a big range of food you can have with Riesling. So it's a big tick, right?
Yeah.
But I think as I got older, I like heavier white wines. Like I love that almost no acid, big fat.
Rich.
Yeah, like Viognier, Marsanne,
yeah.
like, like just no acid or oak, like let's say less. That's me, you know what I mean? So I really love Chardonnay. And then with reds, I think I'm still on that journey of I don't know where I'm landing yet, you know? Like some years it's like, I really like Pinot. And then I think lately it's been like Shiraz Cab. Like, I'm really into cabs at the moment, weirdly. I think it's because they age well.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of like flavor profiles that resonates with me because look, I'm not huge in drinking red wine with food. I love just drinking red wine by itself. You know what I mean?
Back in the days, Asian restaurants, right? All the old people, it's always red wines.
Yeah.
Penfolds Cab or Penfolds Shiraz.
Correct. Yeah, but I think it's also like because I eat a lot of eating in the Australian style, it's not really like that red wine friendly unless you're eating like, beef or whatever, or in the winter, So you just end up drinking red wine just for the social elements of it and having it with chocolate. You know what I mean? Which leads me to like quite heavy,
So are you collecting wines these days? Is it
like yes and no, right? It's weird ones because like I collect some just for like memory's sake, or like if I bumped into a producer I really like.
You would have bought big in 25 though, right? Birth year wine.
Correct. But then a lot of the producers haven't released 25s yet. Yeah, so it's like I can just see it coming now. So it's coming. So yes and no. I don't have that much space. I drink quite I don't drink a lot, but I drink quite often. Like because my wife doesn't drink, so if I open a bottle, I have to like carve in it and drink it over like a week and a half. Right.
What has been the role of wine with Li Ho Fook? Has that evolved as well?
Yeah, it has. Like it's funny because in Melbourne we're all Australian with our wine list, except for champagne and Chinese wines. Champagne because people celebrate with champagne. We can't get away with it. Chinese wine because I'm kind of obsessed with it. I like the idea of like a emerging new world. Like what's a new world wine, you know what I mean? And Australian wines because I think back in 2015 I went to New York and I had an amazing time. Ate at all these great restaurants, but I didn't experience any kind of wine or even beverage. I might have had a Sam Adams or something, right? And I thought, like what if it was the reverse? What if someone traveled 30 hours to Melbourne and then they were just drinking more expensive French wines than they could get at home, right? And I thought kind of that's not, so it took me a while to kind of think about how do I get this into more of a spotlight into Australian wine and wine producing regions and building a community from there. And I think it happened 1920, like just before COVID. We went all Australian and it's been awesome. Like I think and we highlight like each winemaker. So then that way, say for example, if you flick through our wine list, you go Adam Waiterwitz makes Sean Smith M3, but he also makes Elderslie, right? And that's his little passion project. So if you order the Elderslie, you'll get amazing wine and it will be like half the price. And it's kind of like going, hey, this guy is a Ferrari engineer, but here's his go-kart. Like you'd want to drive the go-kart, right? You know what I mean? And then the more that we kind of did that, you see a lot of crossovers. You know what I mean?
How involved are you in the process of building out that wine list?
Yeah, look, I used to be a lot because it was more like, hey, look, I drank this, I thought it'd be cool, get some, right? But now like I've got a restaurant manager and a sommelier and they kind of understand what the brief is. But once in a while I might, be out and about and be like, actually, this is weirdly really really good, or like I haven't had this in a while and why don't we so and it's just trying to expand that. And I think like, is it limiting? Could be, but like we offer free BYO Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays in Melbourne, and free on Monday here in Sydney.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, we understand that the wine community extends past just winemakers. There could be wine merchants that want to show clients and whatever. So it's all it becomes a bit of a zoo sometimes. So but it's awesome.
Some of the restaurants, you know, they go, whether it's a degustation or a la carte, they go, have this with this wine. Have you looked into that, saying, hey, I've got this idea, I'm creating this dish, and which wine would you kind of go? And do your sommeliers guide them on that journey? Or?
Yeah, a little bit. I think, look, you know, I think pairing wines with food it's got its own little kind of art, and there's some real natural ones, right? Like, there's no doubt that if you drink
sauteed and caviar,
like, or like if you have like Vin and E Comte, like it's like amazing, right? And they're obviously that, you know, where it goes together type, you know, thought process. But you know, like say a cuisine like Chinese food, where it's traditionally not, you know, being considered to be paired with wine. I feel that, you know, look, I'm not here to tell you what to do, right? I just think that there's obviously wines that we suggest that, hey, this works really well, or in my opinion works really well. You can opt in for it, or you can just do something else, right? And I think, and sometimes it's that, like, you know, I remember, like you said, when you're young and you go to restaurants and all the uncles are drinking, you know, like, you know, 389s,
or XO Hennessy.
Yeah, 100%. But like that is still a positive flavor memory for me. And that's not like saying that I'm going to stop you drinking 707 with your abalone. Do whatever you want, man. Like, because at the end of the day, you could be like, this is exactly what I remember. And in my childhood, and this is awesome. You know, like, and it's not like, oh my God, the phenol compounds really match with it's like, all right, take it easy, Heston. You know what I mean? Like, it's just more of like, hey, like, I'm having a good time, leave me alone, right? So
do you think that's evolved though? I think, say, it used to be like red wine, especially in the Asian cultures, but then there's also a lot of beers with Chinese food. Do you think it's changed now to more wine, especially in Melbourne, I guess?
Yes.
Right?
Look, I think it's in a gastronomic setting. I feel like, you know, my numbers might be off because, you know, the community and people I know that you know eat at Chinese restaurants or whatever, they tend to be a little bit more kind of just wine drinkers. But also like there's nothing stopping you, like, if we're having lamb skewers, bro, we're having beers, right? You know what I mean? Like, it'd be awesome to be like, oh, I wonder if this Barolo is gonna go well. You know, like, bro, just have a beer. It'd be awesome. But then I think it's like, you know, do you really want to be that guy? You know what I mean? Like,
we all know that guy.
We all know that guy. We all know that guy.
Okay, so we said that it's open to everyone's interpretation and what they want, but is there a dummy's guide to what wines go well with Chinese food or Li Ho Fook?
I don't know. I think it's like, okay, like, here's the stuff I like more than like, this is the guide, right? Like, I think cold seafood offering, like, champagne's nice. I like, you know, Riesling. I think old Riesling is really good with XO sauce. You know, Chardonnay with ginger spring onion steamed items. I really weirdly like Grenache over Pinot with duck. Right, with Peking duck, because I feel that the hoisin sauce really bombs like Pinot. So I think that fruit backbone in Grenache really kind of just sends it a bit better, and also keeps the door open to drink a little bit heavier. You know what I mean? I think it's like, it's tough when you're like, oh, hey, my budget's spent on Pinot, and then it's like, what do you do, right? Like, so I think it's like having something that's kind of like mid-bracket Grenache just to carry you through, and then open the door on like a Cab or a Shiraz, just because you're like, you know, like, there's still space to go. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So the Chardonnay will also go well with like your ginger and shallot crab.
And then and then you open the door to like, hey, how do we do, like, and I feel that like Gamay Pinot is basically an extension of white wine, right? You're like, hey, I want to keep it soft. I want to, like, you know, but then if you're like, hey, I want to, you know, move it up a notch and like eat bigger food, like heavier foods, and drink something that can stand up to it, I think, you know, you got to start with like Merlot Grenache, and then go to like Cab Shiraz, because then you're not like, oh, okay, the story ends with this bottle of Pinot. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I see it. Like, it's always like, what are you drinking next? That's almost as important as like, what are we drinking now?
So like, I don't know, sweet and sour pork. Like, what would you pair with that?
Oh, I'd probably go Pinot, right? Like Pinot? A light red. Even Merlot, I'd go like all the way to like, I think just go harder on, just double down on the fruit.
I know you like this one, stewed pork belly. Like, what would you pair with that one?
Like wine. Yeah, I don't know, drink like Equator or something, drink some Malta. Yeah, just like bomb that fat out of your palate, right? No, but I'd go heavy, maybe cab,
Cab,
old
wow.
cab.
Okay.
Just because whatever, man, you're here to fight this the fat and the sugar,
Yeah.
not so much the delicate flavor of the pork.
Yeah.
You know,
It's just that richness,
yeah,
right?
just go,
The
yeah,
fat.
just
Yeah.
open the door.
You mentioned BYO nights before.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's a trend that's coming through at the moment? Where
Look, I don't know if it's a trend. Like we do it because I understand that the offering in Melbourne is limited to just Chinese wine and Australian wine. So and also like we have a range of customers that have bigger sellers and they've got they want to access and still enjoy the style of hospitality that's around. Yeah, look, it's a tricky one because we're trying to address the cost of living situation. We're trying to still offer what we have without discounting. These are all conversations that are like, are these strategies and tactics, or is it a trend? I don't know. Like it's it's expensive to buy wine and serve wine in Australia. And that's a saving that we can pass on, or a perceived saving. I think that's they're all valuable things, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like, I want to keep running the restaurant for a long time, and if this is something I can offer as a bonus, then great.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great initiative, and I think there should be kind of more BYO nights to kind of get you into the food. Then it's like you lock in, and you feel like if you're going then they're opening up for yourself. Yeah, that you're more enticed also purchase one of their bottles plus also BYO.
And I think that's exactly it's and with wine, it's the more people, the better the experience. I think it's like, you don't want to just be like, okay, hey man, table for two and we'll drink a Magnum, right?
Or some people,
but still, like that's like, tends to happen, but also not ideally what we're trying to achieve, right?
Awesome. We come towards the end of our chat, but I want to do a bit of this and that with you as well.
Yep.
Okay, so wine or beer with Chinese food?
Wine.
Best Chinese food, northern or southern?
Oh, good one. I have to say by default southern, but I love northern Chinese food.
Okay.
Like, hilarious. Yeah, like I think because I love like baos and noodles and like cumin, like grilled lamb and like like smoking cigarettes and drinking like baijiu. Like I think that's really my vibe. But on the inside of me is actually a southern Chinese palate.
Your heart says southern.
Yeah, I think
your gut says
I know.
northern.
I like the northern flavor profile because it's a novelty, but I think like deep down, I'd still just have chung fan, right?
Okay. Fine dining or street food?
Oh, good one. I hate to say it, but I love fine dining.
Oh, yeah.
I just
there's something special.
I love like because I think deep down this is it's the romance of it that got me into this, right? And I love to see what other people's idea of creativity is or quality. So I love
another romantic question: KFC or McDonald's?
KFC.
That was quick.
10 wicker wings. That's my vibe.
Controversial one: Melbourne coffee or Sydney coffee?
I have to say Melbourne. Yeah. I don't think it's I don't know. Yeah,
it's not up for dispute. Is there a go-to coffee shop that you go to in Melbourne?
In Melbourne, I don't like. I love St. Ali.
St. Ali's,
I love St. Ali. I don't know. Maybe I haven't had enough coffee in Sydney. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not just Starbucks or 7-Eleven here. We actually have proper coffee shops. Surrey Hills.
My user journey of getting to Sydney is like, okay, catch an 8 o'clock flight, probably have a coffee in Melbourne, get here by like 10, won't get a coffee till 4, nothing's open, have like 3 pods, and then call that, the caffeine hit so I can get through the PM. So
we'll change you.
I don't know. Like that's
Old world wine or new world wine?
Oh, I love this question. I have to say, I love new world wine.
Yeah.
I really like, just for, it's harder.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, being trying to create something in a new world style that still is respectful of, a whole ton of pressure from, the old world. And to do an amazing job is, I really respect and enjoy New World wine.
I'm going to test that theory. Barossa Shiraz or Rhone Syrah?
Oh, good one. Okay, I gotta go Rhone. Like,
Rhone.
Jamay, the Côte d'Or is like one of my favorites of all time. But then, okay. Like, like a nice 707. Once that fruit's like kind of rubbed off and all that oak's rubbed off, I think, like, why not, right? Like, okay, here's my hot take, right? There's wine, no, because there's wines that are like grown, right? And then there's wines that are made, right? And I think those two schools of like, wine creative expression are very similar to chefs, right? There's chefs that are like technique chefs and the chefs that are like produce driven chefs, right? And like some chefs are like, hey, I really only can work with this amazing produce and, and then there's chefs that are like technical that go, hey man, like we're never going to get this amazing asparagus from France. Let's just find one from Vietnam and let me have a look at what I can do with it to get like something of quality out or a creative expression out. And I've always been quite a technical chef, and I've really been only really admired like technical, kind of cookery for a long time. Like I really respect produce driven gastronomy, but if you're not in that location, does that mean you can't cook? Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're not in the south of France, all of a sudden, like, I can't cook with anything here. You know what I mean? And I think in that thought process is similar to wine, right? Like obviously there's really iconic wines that are expression of their terroir and hundreds of years of that. But then there's house styles that I think are really important because it means that that's custodial. Like you can hand that down. And there's millions of people that really appreciate that, and that's why you're good at what you are. I think
you're very political in your response, but you did say Rhone, so I'll take those as...
No, but that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it's like it's that, like, like the Rhone's got a really powerful expression, but then like Barossa is more like, hey, this is the fruit we've got. This is where we are. How do we stand? Like, how do we make something that can last X amount?
So
to a style.
So is it asparagus from Vietnam?
No, it's not. I thought because asparagus on a season, but that's the example's that, right?
Got it. I know you like your music as well. Old school hip hop or new school hip hop?
I like old school hip hop. I think
school, definitely.
It's funny, right? Because you're supposed to do the exercise where you like listen to new music every week, and I'm like, nah,
it's not the same.
I can't, right? It's like
they're just trying to reinvent the same thing that was done ages ago.
That's the other thing. And then you walk past a club that's going off, and it's still Usher, You know what I mean? Like, where's your Usher?
This is new. This is new.
Where's your Usher, buddy?
New. Okay,
it's so funny.
Last one. We have to ask you this one. We talk about the Mount Rushmore of Asian cuisines. What's your top 3 Asian cuisines?
Oh no. Okay, China, number 1. See, the other two is like is
you have to say Chinese, right?
I have to. Well, no, I do. I really do feel that Chinese cuisine is like it's amazing. It covers a lot, and it's very deep and very wide. I think underrepresented is Indian cuisine. Right? I don't know if you want to count that as Asia. Like, is it East Asia or we're doing Asia?
No, we can count Indian. We can count Indian,
Yeah, okay. I think Indian cuisine's all the way up there. Like, once again, it's very diverse, and I think it's I don't know. That's number 3 is like it's a tricky one. Number 3, I don't know. I
thought it'd be like Japanese,
Thai, but then it's like
Korean.
I love Korean food. I really do love Korean food. I think it's Japanese. I don't know. But then if I cheat,
you work with a Japanese chef as well.
Yeah, but if I go Malaysian food, then it's just basically Indian, Chinese, and Malay food is like tick, right? I'd have to say, look, I really enjoy Korean food. I think it's like it's ticking all the boxes for me. Like, look, I really enjoy Japanese food as well, right? But I think the Korean food just has that element of spice and heat, just kind of carries it a little bit.
They've got the kimchi, right?
Yeah, that, and like just the use of garlic and chili. That is less prevalent in Japanese cuisine. So I think that's my Mount Rushmore. I don't know if I want to die on that hill, but floating target.
Korean, Indian, and Chinese.
Yes,
fantastic. That's a good list. Okay, final reflections, and also looking forward to the future of Li Ho Fook as well. As a reflection, has there been a proudest moment in your career to date?
I don't know. I think I'm always like optimistic future, right? I
always say, is there a moment where your mum goes, "I'm proud of you, son"?
I don't know about that. Don't think that happened. Look, I feel that like going to San Francisco was amazing. I just come back, only recently, and cooking at Mr. Jew's, like he stands for a lot in terms of, creativity and Chinese diaspora. Like he's in Chinatown, like the world's oldest Chinatown. He's in it.
Yeah.
And he's, he used to be a restaurant, like before him, there was a restaurant there. So, and being able to cook with, people like Brandon, like Andrew Wong.
Yeah.
They're all, I think every one of these trips kind of just, like, I feel a great sense of achievement being that, this is an opportunity to export some of the quality of Australian hospitality out, right?
Yeah.
Which is so hard to do, right? To bring your work overseas as an Australian, and for that audience to see the value in it, right?
Yeah.
Because once you're over there, you meet people, and there's people, it's another, that part of the community grows a little bit, and I think, every chance I get to bring the story of Li Ho Fook, of like Australian gastronomy outside of Australia, I think is an amazing, I feel really proud.
Just to drill onto that moment, does it sometimes feel surreal though? Like,
dude, crazy, man. Like, some of it is like, I'm just a chef, I just cook stuff, right? But then to be able to do that, like someone they're paying you to go to the other side of the world, right? And to work with, like, it's funny, like the same, like every kitchen's almost the same, right? It's the same dude, like, that guy's good, that guy's amazing, that guy's been here a long time, that guy's still learning, that guy's an idiot, and it's the same mix of guys, but in another spot. And, you just go in there, and it's because the chefs are all very keen to learn, very passionate. Everyone gets along, execute the event or the dinner, and you come away and you go, this is amazing, right? Like, and, like, I grew up in Homebush. I cook for a living, and now I'm on the other side of the world. Like,
amazing.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
And you feel part of that story too, know?
I'm going to throw in another one. So I always love this question as well. Like, what would you say to a 20-year-old self as well about to embark on that culinary journey? What was the advice they would give him?
I think it's, you'll get there. That's probably look, I've been really lucky. Like, everyone on the journey has taught me a lot, has been very generous with their knowledge, and I've had great mentors. So I guess, like, it all works out eventually, right? You can have it all, but not all at once.
Yeah. We reflected, now we look forward. It's been a big few years. You've done Sydney, you've got Bossa Nova as well, Silk Spoon all coming through as well. What's next for yourself?
I don't know. I think, Li Ho Fook's my favorite project. I think we'll just carry on and just put one foot in front of the other and see where it takes us. So
you're not going to open one in Adelaide and Brisbane?
Look, there's a funny joke that says that I'm always open for business, but like, and then my calendar says no. So we'll see.
Cool.
So we don't. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Any last thoughts for our viewers?
No. I think just support.
Yeah.
Look, restaurants are fragile, and I think anything that produces anything is fragile, right? So, like, if you really like it, you should support it, right? Like, it's, and that goes to wineries, wine labels, like, everyone, it's important that you support these things, because it doesn't take much for, like, for a restaurant to close or for a winery to go, what, I don't. It's because all these things it's a labor of passion, and that we're not really charging what we're supposed to, and you should make the most of it.
Fantastic. Support your restaurants, support local.
Yeah, that's right. All of this, I think it's be part of the community.
Yeah. Thank you, Victor.
It's my pleasure.
So come and try and taste the tasty food at Li Ho Fook. So lihofook.com.au. Check out Victor's restaurants, Duckboard Place in Melbourne, and also here at Porterhouse in Sydney in Castlereagh Street. Final thank you to yourself as well. And as we say here, we drink, we try, we learn, connect. Thank you all.